Coming to you live from Bunk Room C of the Church of Big Satan holiday camp in Port Rush, it's this week's Apocalypse. I am your co-host, Kevin Lenihan. With me, as always, the long-suffering John Ferris. John, how are you doing today?
I am both terrified and horny.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a problem for me, sleeping in the same bunk room, I think. But it'll be all right. And I did book this place like well in advance, and it was so cheap. And I was like, well, you know, it's run by a church, and that I felt that was a bit weird. Yeah. But it was like the Church of Big Satan, never heard of them, you know. And you know, we've got in a room, we've unpacked all our stuff, and then I noticed the sign on the wall that says, "Do not cross line, beware of Succubus." And now I'm noticing there's a chalk line on the floor with all these symbols on it, and there's a lady over there, and she's sitting next to the door, and she's not like, she doesn't seem to be doing much. She's just sort of, I think she's reading a book and just sort of laughing every now and then. She's not really paying us much mind. I think she's reading Little Women. It's a good book, actually. But now I'm a bit scared to go over there. Like, I mean, the problem is that we're on this side of the line and the door is on her side. Yeah. It's like one of those sitcoms, you know, where they draw a line down the middle of their flat, but then one guy's got the controls for the TV or whatever, and except this is way worse because we just can't leave, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it might just be our general fear of talking to women.
I don't have that fear, I don't think.
No.
let's just play the adolescent boy here.
Yeah, I'm just if we're gonna go by tropes, I'll just add a few more in here.
Yeah, if we're gonna be cliches, I guess let's be the cliches. I'm scared, and what do I say to girls from hell? I don't know. Okay, just be yourself. There you go. There's the advice. But they do have an on-demand movie service. Now, they've only got 3 movies on here. Yeah. I think it's a joke. I think they thought they were being funny, but every single one of them costs £6.66.
Yeah. And they all have a running theme, it seems.
They do. It's a little on the nose, really. So, the first one we have here is Karyn Kusama's Jennifer's Body from 2009, which seems to be about a succubus. We have Paul Campion's The Devil's Rock from 2011, which also seems to be about a succubus. And we have Greg Bishop's Siren from 2016, which also sort of seems to be about a succubus. So yes, John, you're right. There is definitely a theme here. A very useful theme, it turns out. I feel like they've set this all up.
This almost seems like one of those escape rooms or something.
Yeah, it's like weird. It's like an escape room, but it's like an escape room run by like a cult.
Especially when you think, like, I'm just thinking the Church of BS.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, John, I didn't even realize. The Church of Big Satan is the Church of BS.
Yeah.
Oof. Well, that puts a sort of a fun sort of, maybe this isn't that serious then, but maybe we should still engage with the game.
Yeah.
So let's sit down, look for clues, and watch these movies. All right, John. Well, that was entertaining. So let's just get right into it because she's getting to the end of the book here and I don't know what's going to happen. I assume she can't cross the line to get to us either, but it doesn't say anything about that on the sign.
Yeah.
It just says do not cross line. So let's then try and figure out what the hell to do here before it all goes belly up, as it were. And John, what did you think of Jennifer's Body?
I was pleasantly surprised actually with Jennifer's Body. Especially I avoided this movie for a long time because I mean Megan Fox isn't a great actress, to be fair, but I think the way this was marketed kind of gave the sense that it was a different movie. And this movie's kind of like a fun kind of silly horror comedy. And there's more to it than a lot of these horror movies, I would say. But the marketing, and I actually looked into it a wee bit, the director was not happy with the marketing.
I bet the writer wasn't happy either, because this is written by Diablo Cody.
What a brilliant name to write.
Yeah, I know, but a demon,
yeah, Diablo Robotico. That's all I can think of. I would say the two of them, and actually Megan Fox wasn't too pleased as well, because especially she was kind of glad she came off things like Transformers, which kind of infamously she badmouthed the Transformer movies, and that's why she stopped being put in them.
Yeah, she didn't come back for the third one, and there was a lot of stuff going on where she was just like, nah, Michael Bay basically treats women like objects, and so does half the cast, and she was saying a lot of that stuff, and I was like, all right, Megan, go for it.
Yeah, I kind of. She seems kind of cool in person. She's not the best actress, but she's very good in this. In the sense that she is very well cast, and her kind of Valley Girl stick or whatever you would call it, works very well.
Yeah, she plays that up really effectively.
Yeah,
it makes a really good contrast between the things she's saying and the things that are happening.
Yeah. Like at one point, someone asked her, "Does she want to go see the Rocky Horror Picture Show?" She goes, "No, I don't really like boxing movies." It's like brilliant.
That was a nice wee joke.
Yeah, like wee things like that work very well. And alongside her, Amanda, I'm going to butcher her name here, Seyfried?
Yeah, that's it. It's Amanda Seyfried.
Okay. She's brilliant. She's actually a really good actress, though. She's been in some crap, but she's generally she's very good in it. But she's brilliant as the kind of our hero character, Jennifer's long-suffering friend, Needy.
Yeah. Is it her name's Anita, I think, but like as a nickname they call her Needy, which is very on the nose.
Yeah.
I think.
But yeah, like, because that's one of the things that this movie does quite well, where like it plays on the tropes as well. I kind of enjoy when things do that. And then like you've got Adam Brody, which I wish was in it more, because he's brilliant as this asshole, crappy, like emo rock guy.
Yeah, he's so rubbish, but he's so good. He's such a dick. Yeah, he's such a
him
dick.
And his shitty band, who like the only way they can make it is if they sacrifice someone to Satan.
Yeah. It's so fucking perfect. All the stuff involving the band is so funny.
I kind of wish they were in it more, especially because like the Needy's boyfriend Chip is a bit of a charisma vacuum, and like scenes with him kind of slow things down and are kind of a bit too long and kind of go nowhere really, you know.
Yeah, he's just there to create a tension between them.
Yeah.
And be the one saying like, is she really your friend? Why do you hang around with this girl? What's going on? Also, now I'm imperiled.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the princess that needs rescuing at one point, although it doesn't necessarily go very well.
But yeah, it's a fun horror movie with a good concept behind it.
Yeah, it's kind of like as I was watching it, I kept thinking about The Faculty.
Yeah,
and thinking like, it's like this is thematically sort of like The Faculty, in that they seem to be looking through the same lens that The Faculty was looking through it. Like, it's high school and all these dumb kids, but it's a horror movie too, and it's a bit silly, and we're aware that it's a bit silly.
Yeah,
but also it is kind of still well made and well written and a good film. Megan Fox is great in it. She plays the role perfectly. She plays the I'm a cheerleader and also secretly a big slut as well, which I think is the funny thing about it. Like the thing that like they think about her, like the band, like all the stuff that the guy's saying, like he's a big fucking know-it-all and he's completely wrong. That's great. And like they're all dicks, and they are so. Now it's weird to me. Every time the song came on, I couldn't help laughing because it was just so perfectly the right sounding song for them to be playing. I think it is Fall Out Boy.
Is it
playing the music? Because whenever it came on, I was like laughing because they're on the soundtrack.
Right.
They're actually on the soundtrack, and she has a Fall Out Boy poster in her room.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, are they taking the piss out of Fall Out Boy right now? Because it really feels like they're taking the piss out of Fall Out Boy. And I think they are.
Because because that's the thing I was going to say as well, is that I didn't like the music in the movie, but I thought it in general, I thought it worked well for, like, it was very much the music these kids would be listening to and things like that in 2009. To me, it was horrendous. But yeah, I kind of do think that they might have been making fun of them, and that might be the funniest thing about it.
Yeah, I think so, because it is funny, like, every time that song plays, and they play the song for laughs.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's points where it comes on, and it is the punchline to something that's just been set up when the song starts playing again. Like, J.K. Simmons is so good as well. Every time he talks about the band, and every time he tries to talk to the kids on their level, that's all part of the same joke, almost, it feels like. He's great, like the one-handed, like, whatever he is, like their biology teacher or whatever the fuck he is. I don't know what he teaches them. He just seems to be their generic teacher. I don't think we ever get it. I think there's always like a really well-drawn, like, diagram of a cell behind him, suspiciously well-drawn, like a teacher definitely didn't do it. It was like someone in an art department who worked on the movie, obviously drew this thing on the board. But he's great. His whole performance is like, it's very different than the roles you usually see him in.
Yeah.
It's sort of understated and awkward.
Yeah.
But he's like, he's
just
someone who's
as good. He is brilliant in it.
He's a character who is awkward but doesn't seem to know that he's awkward.
Yeah.
It's actually weirdly quite nuanced for a film like this.
That one scene where Jennifer's killing a kid in the woods. I'm not even going to say a spoiler. You see it coming a mile away.
Yeah.
So she's killing someone in the woods, and you hear him like screaming out, and it cuts to J.K. Simmons' character getting into his car. He's like, "Yeah, let it all out, because he thinks he's crying. And
he's like, "Oh, the catharsis of the primal scream and all that shit, basically." And then
until it goes on too long, and he's like, "Oh, wait a minute."
Yeah, that's not good.
And I love how they play that. Like, this is very much a school in mourning, and that all these like terrible deaths keep happening.
Yeah. And
yet Jennifer's she'll walk through, the only one in bright clothing as well. Like, she'll walk through, like, she's happy as Larry, because she's the one doing the killings, obviously. And it just, like, the contrast is really funny, and it works very well.
Yeah. The whole thing is just like, it's a whole bunch of disparate elements that just come together really neatly.
Yeah.
You know, where you got the Satanism and the stuff, and you got like, I'm a cheerleader, and then you have the straight up visceral horror and like some pretty good gore as well. There's some pretty good like intestines strewn about the place and stuff like that I like, and plenty of blood. Yeah. And it's intelligently written. It's funny. The narration's actually pretty good as well. It doesn't feel obtrusive. It's kind of like, it kind of works.
Yeah.
A sort of I'm going to tell you the story about how I ended up here.
Yeah, because at first I was kind of like, oh, it's going this route, is it? And it kind of, you're right. It worked out well enough. Yeah.
At the start you get a bit of I don't know. But then later you're like, oh, okay. It's kind of the same way I think I felt about Mean Girls, where it was like, oh, I don't know, and then you get another Amanda Seyfried featuring film, in which she plays a very different character, actually.
Yes, yeah.
Because in this, she's supposed to be sort of a bit nerdy and kind of a bookworm and a smart kid, and then in Mean Girls, she's just a ditzy moron. Like,
and also like I think because we're watching this obviously to find out about Succubus,
yes,
and it definitely plays into that. I mean, at one point when Needy's doing her research, that's what comes up is Succubus, and it definitely is implied that it's a Succubus taking over Jennifer's body. And there's like a weird thing where it's never really clear how much of Jennifer is, like, how much of her personality is still involved.
Yeah, that's
which I kind of like.
Yeah, it's like a good, nice theme with like demonic possession movies, where it's like, ever since The Exorcist, really, it's been like, oh, it will mix lies with the truth to deceive you, and it's like, it's living inside this person, and maybe it does know all the things that they know, and it's just acting that way.
Yeah.
But also, I think you do get the feeling that it is still kind of her.
Yeah, it acts very. Yeah, it very much like plays into that she's always been this awful person, but
Yeah.
she's never been murdering people, obviously. You
Yeah.
know? But she definitely like takes advantage of her friend Needy, and
Yeah.
there's a jealousy there with the Needy's wanting to spend time with her boyfriend. There's also like a kind of lesbian undertone thing happening where
At some point it becomes an overtone.
well, yeah, actually, yeah, it's, but yeah, you very much get that Needy might be a bit more. She might be in love with Jennifer. And
Yeah.
from the very start, it kind of like I think the boyfriend even mentions something about that where he's kind of a bit jealous that she's wanting to spend time with Jennifer so much. But
And she has this thing where like she refuses to see her flaws for what they are.
Yeah.
She's like, no, she's my best friend, and she won't waver on that for most of it.
Yeah.
She's like, no, and you're just like, oh, you're such an unlikely pair of friends, and it's like, yeah, well.
And I mean, I would love to see this movie. Like, I would love to know if the marketing had been better, because that, and it actually just found this on the IMDb of it in the wee trivia section where there was an interview in the New York Times with Karyn Kusama, and she mentioned that the marketing department, which was all male, apparently,
Surprise.
They actually pitched the idea of having Megan Fox go on to amateur porn sites to do live chats as like a publicity thing, which just like I just thought I would mention that because that's how completely out of touch with what this movie is. The marketing department were, and it kind of it feeds into like you see the marketing for this movie and you do just go right, yeah, they were pitching a completely different experience here.
That's grim.
Yeah, and
that is so grim.
I feel really bad for everyone involved. I mean, especially as you said, the writer, the director, the actresses who both have said, Megan Fox and Amanda have both said that the roles that they played in this movie are one of their favorites. Cool. And for it to be like kind of almost overlooked in a lot of ways is just annoying.
Yeah, that's infuriating, actually.
yeah, infuriating's a better word for it.
Yeah, that's absolutely disgusting and terrible that they would do that. What a bunch of Hollywood creeps. Yeah. God damn it. Oh, well, anyway, I think this film, good on the director, good on Karyn for trying to fight back against that crap.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Also should probably mention it turns out I have liked a good few of her other films.
Yeah.
It turns out. There's one in particular that I really like that I recommend that we might actually end up watching if we ever get captured by a bona fide cult.
It could happen.
It's a movie called The Invitation that I really like a lot. It's another one of those, oh no, is this going to be another home invasion movie? But it's actually an original idea rather than just a rehash of Funny Games. Again, which most home invasion movies became bad, pale imitations of Funny Games at some point. But The Invitation is not that, and it's very, very, very good.
Okay.
I also discovered that Diablo Cody has written it turns out, a thing that I'm fascinated by the concept of, and they might be blowing out into a full-blown idea. It's a live-action adaptation of the Powerpuff Girls.
Oh, yes, yeah.
But, like, as adults, and, like, they're sort of jaded and resentful of the fact that they were made to fight crime as children. I think there was a pilot done. There was a pilot done for it, which, obviously, I haven't seen. But apparently they're going to rework it in some way and actually make it. They're just calling it Powerpuff. That's the title at the minute anyway. So I was fascinated by that. And it was fun that I learned that existed.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. So that's Diablo Cody has written that.
Yeah.
Who also did Juno as very famous. That's
yeah.
probably her most successfully well-known film.
Yeah.
She tends to write a film and then people don't like it in cinemas, and then they all become like weird cult hits later, which this film did as well. I think this film bombed when it came out, but is now considered to be just a really good demonic possession movie.
Yeah.
So that's great. Props to them. Yeah, I'd say I really like this film. It's one of those films, again, maybe because of the marketing, it's kind of nice to be surprised that it isn't the film that you thought you were going to watch. Because you were saying to me, whenever we were picking these films, you were like, oh, I've avoided that film.
Yeah.
And if you look at the marketing, with good reason.
Yeah.
Whereas my wife loves this film, which is how I ended up watching it. She stuck it on one day, and I was like, oh, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same way that I ended up actually watching Mean Girls, weirdly.
And Mean Girls is great as well.
Mean Girls is it's really well made film, and it's funny, and it's quite well written. Necessarily all the performances aren't necessarily stellar, but it all works really well. Much like this film, it just sort of works.
Yeah.
And it's good. And I've seen this film a few times now, and every time I enjoy it thoroughly.
I definitely will watch this again.
Yeah, it's a shame we watched this so close to Halloween, because that'll be a good time to stick it on.
I'm sure we'll end up in situations where we'll watch some scary movies.
Indeed, over the next month.
Yeah.
Oh my God, John, how could that possibly be?
I just have this feeling. I have this like sixth sense about this.
What if we just stayed home in future? Would that be? Well, we tried doing that before, and then the assassins came to get us.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just our fate. We just need to go out into the world and face it head on. So all in all, I think we're in agreement. Jennifer's Body, pretty damn good film.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah. All right. Well, she's moved on now to Women in Love. There's a theme with her books here that she's reading, and she's just sort of laughing every now and then, and just sort of looking over here suspiciously. I think she knows we're talking about her, which, I guess that's rude. Are we being rude, John? Should we just go over and say hi? The sign does say don't cross the line.
I mean, it might be best, finishing our quote-unquote research.
Yes, John, we'll finish our book reports, will we? Before we go and attempt communication with this lady with the horns. So, John, that being the case then, it's just quickly becoming my catchphrase, I think. What did you think of Paul Campion's The Devil's Rock from 2001?
Oh, you mean with the tagline, War is a Bitch?
I didn't even know that. That's awful.
Yeah. It was okay. I'd say I enjoyed it for the most part, but it's quite slow. And I actually thought it would have done better as a short movie.
Yeah.
And I kind of found out that the writer and director Paul Campion,
Campion.
I don't know. Just before this, he did a short film called Eel Girl, which seems to be kind of close. Like it seems to be a similar concept. Like this an eel girl. It's like a mermaid type creature.
Yeah.
For like it does really well getting a good atmosphere sorted, and I kind of like. I liked the start. I liked when it was very slow at the start, and they're going through these tunnels, like going, "What the fuck's going on here?"
Yeah, the tension there is really good when there's like they're just surrounded by tunnels and they can't see down any of the tunnels. You're standing at like an intersection and being like, "Hello, is somebody there?" It was good and creepy. I like that too.
Unfortunately, by the time the succubus or demon turns up, it kind of, I don't know, it just starts kind of dragging a bit weirdly, and like there's good scenes with the main character and the Nazi guy.
Yeah,
the performances are good for the most part. The only problem with the Nazi guy is his accent keeps slipping down.
Doesn't do one. I felt like
he starts and then he just kind of gives up.
Yeah. The thing is, that's kind of one of the things I liked about it, was that I thought maybe he was being German, and then they dropped the German accent, and I was like, ooh. And then I found that after a few minutes, I didn't mind.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is actually, I think that was, for me, the best bits of the film, was when he was having his intense discussions with the Nazi.
Yeah.
And rather than, because like, the stuff with the succubus is really like straightforward and kind of a bit. It's not that interesting, and she's not very scary or anything like that. Really, the best stuff was like, yeah, he was a good. They were acting very well. He just wasn't doing the accent.
Yeah,
you know. But it was still good. He still seemed like a Nazi creep.
Yeah,
you know, and that was it. That's enough because you know that's perfect. If you're playing a Nazi, you got to be a creep. Like,
yeah, it was very menacing, and
yeah,
he did. I mean, it also didn't help that the kind of the twist, let's say, near the end, not the very end, but the twist when they're trying to get rid of the succubus, sorry, in this case, you can see it a mile away. Like, it's spoiler alerts, the Nazi's going to turn on him.
Yeah, spoiler alert: the Nazi might not be telling the whole truth, and he's going to stab someone in the back, probably literally.
It probably would have been better had they just like picked a more like neutral kind of warring faction, because as soon as you have a Nazi in your movie, it's like, well, the Nazi's the biggest evil ever.
Yeah, you're just like, they're definitely the bad guys.
Yeah.
And he is like this SS guy, so he's definitely a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know that as soon as you know he's SS. You're like, oh, this guy's scum.
Yeah.
This guy is the worst of the scumbags. So don't turn your back on him.
Yeah.
Don't, like, let him loose. You know, if you're going to tie him up, keep him tied up. You know, if you're going to keep your goddamn gun on him, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And especially the bit where what's his name again? Ben. Sorry, the main character. When Ben takes the protection page, whatever, he hides that on his person. You're like, it happens quite early, and then there's a lot of faffing about, and you're like, well, yeah, we know this is all going to come, like, we know what's going to happen here.
That's foreshadowing. You know that's going to matter. It's one of those Chekhov's gun things where it's like, they wouldn't show us him putting it in his pocket unless it was going to be important in 10 minutes.
You know, there's so much of it is telegraphed a bit too much, but it is a low budget movie. And New Zealand, isn't it? It's it's all produced by the New Zealand Film Board and all that stuff. Yeah.
I don't know if it was. I think it was filmed in Guernsey.
Yeah.
Where it's set on an island near Guernsey. And I know that a lot of that seems like they did a lot of location stuff because all that stuff still exists there.
Yeah.
They still have like the gun emplacements, and I know there's a big sort of underground German hospital.
Apparently.
That was built there. Well, was it not?
No.
Was it filmed in the
filming
Pacific
locations.
somewhere?
Wellington, New Zealand, Wrights Hill Fortress, and Island Bay Studios, and Breaker Bay. So all in New Zealand, all in Wellington. Between the 5th of August 2010 and the 21st of August 2010. So there you go.
All right, there you go. Completely wrong. I just assumed because there is so much of that stuff still in Guernsey.
Yeah,
there is a whole underground like bunker hospital. You can go on a tour. It's a German wartime hospital that they built there whenever they were occupying the islands. Because I think like they weren't necessarily chased out of Guernsey. I think after D-Day happened, they just left.
Yeah.
Because it was, oh no, we need to go back to France and Germany to defend. So they didn't need to be bombed out because they were like, oh shit, we're needed somewhere else. So all that stuff was abandoned and didn't necessarily need to be destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just assumed. But anyway, they do a pretty good job of establishing that because I was convinced. I was like, oh, they must have filmed it there.
Yeah, I think that this is one of this bunker was kind of renovated as well in New Zealand, you know. So yeah, it looks awesome. Like the set works really well.
Yeah.
And things like that. And for a low budget movie, like it is pretty good. It's just it suffers that like, they clearly didn't have the budget. You know, the Ben's friend at the start would have been in it more, only they didn't have the budget to pay for this extra actor. And I thought he was a good character. They were very different, and
there was a real good interplay between them at the very beginning when he's like going, "Oh, let's go meet some girls."
Yeah.
And the other guy's just like, he's so not interested in the banter at all. And that was a really good dynamic because it seemed like his mate's really trying hard to get him out of his shell by saying all these things. And it's clearly, they establish pretty well that they do get on the nose with it eventually, that like this guy has suffered a loss.
Yeah.
You know, and like they talk about it, and it's clear the way his friend is talking. I think they make it clear then.
Yeah.
That he has lost his girlfriend or his wife because the guy keeps talking about stuff obliquely, but then they just get extremely on the nose with it and tell you. I don't think they needed to do that. I think they could have just implied that and it would have been fine.
Definitely.
But hey, it's grand. Whatever. So he was fun. That Carlos Drinkwater, I think is that guy's name. I saw it pop up at the start and I was like, that's a great name.
Like I think that's a missed opportunity. Again, nothing they could have done about that because it was a budget constraint thing. But it would have been great to see his friend kind of fall victim to the succubus rather than
kind of gets shot.
Yeah. It's kind of disappointing that like his end kind of comes a bit too abruptly, but it's just one of those, like, I don't regret saying it, but I don't know if I'd watch it again kind of thing. No. Yeah,
for me, this is another one of those ones. They seem to come up a lot on this show now, but like one of those ones where it got to the end of a year and I was like, what films did I miss this year? And I went back and I was like, The Devil's Rock, and I read the concept of it and was like, that's actually really interesting. And it kind of reminded me of conceptually like Wolfenstein, or the way that it was the way that Wolfenstein had become at that point. The current Wolfenstein games were mainly about the occult and stuff. They've gotten a bit away from that now with the ones they do now, but back then it was definitely like zombie resurrections and demons and elder things and stuff like that. Also it's also sort of similar to the setup of Hellboy as well, where it's like, we're the occult, Hitler's occult division, because it's a fun thing for people to explore in a sort of historical fiction kind of way, with like, the Hitler was really into the occult, and what if. I didn't find, as I said before, I didn't find the succubus in this to be particularly like scary, or really threatening. And she does do some bad murder. There is I don't know whether it was disturbing or funny, when you see her actually, there is someone you see her actually kill. I couldn't tell if it was stupid or if it was actually disturbing or not. I was torn.
It was kind of stupid.
It was definitely kind of stupid, wasn't it? I'm not crazy. I mean, I think the idea, you could see that someone writing that in a book and it being disturbing, but then when you try to show it, it just looks silly.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do practically.
And
as well, like, I don't want to say that the makeup looks bad in it, but
it's not very interesting.
It's very. It reminds me of the demon in what do you call that movie now? Legend. It was like a female version of him.
It's like a female version of the King of the Fairies or whatever. Red
but
and horns.
Not kind of, but without the hooves and the kind of things and the massive horns and things like that. It just kind of like seemed like a cheaper done version of that. But again, you can't really be too harsh on it for that because low budget again. It looked like something out of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
It did. That's what I thought you were going to reference when you started talking there. I'm glad we circled around eventually to that, because that's what it looked like to me as well. Like sort of a season 5 kind of Buffy when they got a bit of a budget, more of a budget. But things still looked like, this is still TV. This is still TV budget. And we have the budget for a TV episode, so we're going to do a demon that looks like this.
And it didn't really, I also felt like it didn't really explore, maybe it would have been too clunky because it would have to come out in exposition or something like that. But, all that it seemed to do was really like look like someone you fancy or someone you love and draw you close so it can rip you to pieces. Like, there's probably more to it. There probably is, like, it's there's always like that magical element to this where it kind of like draws you in somehow. But this one, it didn't really communicate that too well. You know,
No,
where you're kind of like sitting there going, "Okay, Ben, just like walk away. You know it's not your wife." It didn't seem
as soon as because like she's dead, his wife is dead. They established that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's me, honey, and you're just like, it's clearly not.
How was it? How was it? Like, there's a lot of that for way too long. You're like, just get over it. It's not her.
It's kind of like, I feel like this feels like, and this is going to come up again, but this feels like conceptually, this is a concept that would have done probably much better in like maybe a 20 or 30 minute short maybe, rather than blown out to a full movie. And it isn't that long. It's like it ends quite abruptly. I felt like there was, when it did end, I don't want to necessarily say the end, but I felt like something else was going to happen at the end, but then it just credits, and then it felt like they had a wee bit during the credits, as if it was maybe they felt that way and they were like, oh, maybe we should have something else here because that can't be the end. But even then, it doesn't end very satisfyingly, I don't think.
No.
I felt a bit kind of at the end of it.
I also felt they missed an opportunity, and it kind of would have helped explain, you know, why Ben is still looking at her as if, oh my God, is this my wife? You know, it's established fairly quickly that the Nazi officer, he isn't affected by her because he can see past this. But I kind of was waiting for the succubus to reveal that he's actually gay, and that's why, you know, there was like a loophole maybe that, of course, he's not going to be attracted to a female, and it kind of like, I thought it would have been an interesting,
for fun, clever twists.
Yeah, like it would have been an interesting like way that's why he's the only one who survived, because he's like sitting there going, what is wrong with you guys? She's a horrible demon.
Yeah, that'd be like being gay is a superpower when it comes to like a succubus.
Yeah, you know,
that'd be
like
pretty. That's actually that's a really cool concept, John. You should make that movie.
But like, I kind of was waiting for that and like hoping that was going to be then, you know, that's your gateway into this Nazi kind of trying to like play off that no, like she's lying to you and blah blah blah, but also like a way for him to explain that it's not just that she mimics or like looks like has a glamour that looks like your loved one or whoever you want, to know that there is something extra to it. But I kind of felt it was going there at one point and then it just kind of veered off. It was like like you really missed that one.
Yeah, this film was entertaining and kept my attention, but yeah, it feels a wee bit like it's a little bit of wasted potential.
Yeah.
Okay, she's pacing up and down now on the edge of the line, and you know it's I can't tell if she's trying to intimidate us or what is happening here. I feel very self-conscious all of a sudden.
And it's lending a new meaning to hungry eyes.
Indeed.
Hungry eyes.
Because her eyelids literally have teeth. Is that why, John? Yeah. That's bad.
It begs the question, how was she reading?
Indeed. How was she seeing past those teeth? Well, I don't know. Demons are weird, man. I mean, we don't fully understand their physiology, and I do not want to.
No.
So, hopefully we won't have to. Let's get on out of here. But first, let's figure out what we learned from Gregg Bishop's Siren from 2016. John, what did you think of Siren?
For the most part, I kind of liked Siren. Definitely has its issues. It's not brilliant. A lot of the performances are a wee bit questionable. The guy who plays Mr. Nix, literally like the first person you see on screen, is kind of bad, but it kind of works
terrible,
later.
But he's like he's so shitty, but I think because he's the villain, it's kind of okay that he's like that. Maybe
it's because I thought at the start, oh my god, what have I got myself into? And then like when he's in it later, and he's doing his like overacting, but it's like, you know what, this is
Yeah.
kind of working now.
You feel like this is why they cast him.
Yeah,
Because they needed him to do these bits good. Yeah.
yeah. And again, like it's maybe, you know, another one of these things where it was a small budget movie and things like that, but there's a few pacing issues. There's a few like dodgy looking CG, which apparently is directly related to the lack of money and the time restraints, where this was kind of rushed off in post production before the director was allowed to finish it. So that's why a lot of the tail effects and stuff that like that
They
look
crap.
really bad.
They look crap. Like,
Yeah.
every time she was doing big, weird, demonic stuff, it kind of looked like ass. I think some of the like the makeup effects are all right.
Yeah.
I like the face. It was actually, whenever her face changes, it's quite freaky. And it's sort of a holdover from, we should probably say, this film is based on a short
Yeah.
from the anthology movie VHS, which is all right.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It has a couple of good bits in it. In fact, the section that this one is based on is the only bit of it that I really remember with any real clarity, actually.
I think that's why it was chosen to be a full-length,
Yeah.
feature-length movie.
Yeah, it didn't. This doesn't necessarily involve the guy who made that, though.
Yeah.
He's credited as a writer because it's his idea. It also has the same actress in it who plays our Succubus.
Yeah.
So I think they cast her. She has a weird thin face and she can move about all creepy and stuff, and that works. And as I say, like whenever they put the makeup on her and do the big weird mouth and all that stuff, actually it looks pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
it's slightly creepifying. It gets a bit stupid after a while. When you look at it for too long, you're like, okay, now it's starting to look like a silly Halloween mask,
yeah,
rather than actual cool makeup. When they show it in little sort of spurts and flashes,
yeah.
it
When
looks
it first
okay.
starts, like when she first starts changing and stuff, like there is that element. They're still trying to play it coy, and then like by the end of the movie, they just have like these long shots of her, usually with the CGI tail and wings and stuff and everything, and it looks a bit naff, unfortunately. But again, it seems like that wasn't really that. It almost seems like a studio problem where they just went, no, this has to be rushed out right now.
Indeed, yeah, and all the CG looks crap. There's another lady in this who has like, they don't really explain who she is or what she's about, but she has a bunch of leeches on her head.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense because leeches don't do the things that they're doing. It would have been way better. Like, they're all like, she takes her wig off and they're all like, I think they wanted it to look like a Medusa kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe. Like, with them all like up and like writhing.
Yeah.
But like, it would have been way more effective if they were just sort of limply hanging off of her head like leeches do.
Yeah.
But they aren't. They're like, bleh, and it looks like a crappy, again,
And like,
it looks like something from Buffy the Vampire Slayer a little bit.
I agree. Like a practical effect of them just like sitting on her head would have been much more
like,
effective.
They had all these eels, or like fake eels, I guess, lying around. They could have just went, right, let's get some spirit gum here, bump, bump, bump. There you go. Now your bald head has all these leeches all over it. Super cool. It probably would look way creepier.
Because I like the concept of this bar that like that's how they pay for stuff, and that's why they have these people like constantly coming, like that they take the memories from you and things like this.
Yeah. You pay with your memories and your emotions rather than money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fun.
And like, I almost wanted to see more of that than where this movie went, you know.
Yeah,
because there's like
that feels like something they set up and then they don't do anything with, except have it be an antagonistic. Oh, this is where this guy's been hanging out and doing his dark business. Because
the guy who brings them there, the attic guy, he seems to want to go to like relive memories that he's clearly sold, and like that's a kind of interesting concept, you know, that he's got these four. So that's his like payments. Like, look, I got more memories for you. So like, but what I get 4 hours, with this memory. Whatever, I forget what one he mentions, but it's just in passing. But no, for like, character-wise, I thought, I kind of thought it was funny because, like at the start, because I've been to stag do's with people very much like this. You've got the guy who really just wants to go mental and wants everyone to be surrounded in strippers and, be sniffing cocaine the whole time.
Yeah.
You've got that guy, and then the other three are very much like what I'm like at these things where it's like, I just want to go and have a few drinks. I'm fine.
Can we not just have a pint? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like that's what most of his friends are like.
Yeah.
They're all just like, oh, okay, well. But then they're like, oh, well, we have to make it good for his stag, I guess. And it's like, it's the Jonah is the guy, the groom whose stag do it is, and it's his brother, he's appointed best man, and is this he's that annoying guy who wants to go do all the wild stuff, and he's kind of an obnoxious turd.
Yeah.
And he is annoying in the whole film. I was just like, I was expecting him to get it first, to like be killed, like, oh, let's just get rid of this guy off the straight up. But no, he just lingers, I think.
He has to redeem himself slightly.
Yeah, sort of.
And then the friend, one of Jonah's other friends, Rand, he gets the short end of the stick, I think. There's being killed, and then there's being tortured and things like that, and having your memory wiped a bit, so you're like, what the fuck's going on?
Again, that aspect of it was more interesting than any of the succubus stuff.
Yeah.
The fact that he was like, he had been tortured, and then they had taken that memory from him.
Yeah.
And given it to his mate, and then he's like sitting there going, wait, what's happened to me? What's going on? And he's like, what did they do to me? He's like, oh my god, I can't believe they did this to you. And he's like, what did they do to me? And you're like, yeah, that was fun. So I feel like they came up with a good idea for that.
Yeah, really good ideas and concepts in this movie that don't get fully fleshed out.
No.
Which is a shame. And we should mention this is the only movie where the succubus actually has sex with someone.
It does indeed, yes.
At some point it does, because the whole thing is like the succubus falls for Jonah because he releases her, mistaking her for it kind of, because it touches on like sex trafficking, and it could have maybe with a bit more clever writing, it could have probably went down that avenue and been a bit more interesting, or like had a message to say, but it really just uses that as an excuse for like why Jonah unlocks her and stuff like that. And then when she's going on a killing spree, it's pretty much to find him, finds him, and then does the business.
Indeed.
And that's more kind of your classic kind of
the
succubus.
Succubus, yes, yeah. The kind of thing you expect from a succubus. A lot of the other succubus are exclusively on the, I'm going to tempt you, and then eat you.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, this one does eat people, but it does, and I think the reason it's called Siren is they've thrown in a bit of siren lore as well, like from Greek mythology,
which is terrible.
Sings. Yeah, it's really annoying that fucking little loop that they play.
Because it doesn't sound like it's coming from her either. The way it's played, it's very much like you almost expect the wee radio sitting in the corner with it playing. I thought the music in general in this movie was pretty bad. But that bit kind of annoyed me. It just didn't seem that it suited. But it did a better job of the Devil's Rock at explaining. You got the sense that yes, once she starts singing, you're kind of lured in and stuff like that.
Yeah, it got across the I am mesmerizing you or enchanting you, I guess, in a way. I'm luring you with wiles, but it was very literal, just like I'm singing the Siren song, and that's like freezing you in your tracks and bringing you towards me.
Yeah.
In the same way that in Greek mythology, sirens would lure sailors onto the rocks and dash they would die on the rocks. Whereas she's definitely a succubus demon who is using it for that, but also eating people. I kind of hate the end, though.
Yeah,
I hate the end a lot. I don't necessarily want to say what it is. I'm just going to say that I think the end is terrible.
Well, we could just throw up a spoiler warning, and I don't think it's
okay.
I
Well,
mean,
if you don't want to know the end of this middling film
Yeah.
that you probably don't really want to go seek out and watch anyway, then skip ahead to decision time now. It'll all be indexed in the description. We have the timing, the timestamps in there. Yeah. So the end is rubbish, and it just sort of, because like it just flashes forward a year, and then oh no, look, here she is again.
No explanation, no nothing. Yeah. And
where's she been for a year? I don't know. Why did it take her a year? She was able to find him instinctively immediately throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
Really easily. And yet it took her a year to catch up with him and then be like, oh, I pretended to be your wife. Because she does that thing where he thinks he's having sex with his wife.
Yeah.
And then he goes downstairs and his wife's asleep on the sofa.
Which again, you can see coming a mile away.
Yeah, you see that
again, another cliche of cinema right there.
Yeah, oh my god. As soon as you see him get out of the bed and you see the person who's in the bed with him turned and facing away,
yeah,
you know immediately, you're like, well, that's obviously her, right? Because they deliberately didn't show us this person's face.
Exactly.
And they have their hair all around the place so we can't see anything. And then, like, this is so crap. Just like it feels really rushed.
Yeah.
The end of it just feels like, oh, we need to have a dramatic conclusion to this. So, I don't know. Oh, please don't kill my wife. I'll go with you. Grab, fly out the window, end credits.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, that was rubbish. See, I think on the whole, I don't know if I like this film. I kind of feel like it's meh.
Yeah.
Constantly just meh. Like there are, again, in the same way in The Devil's Rock, there are a lot of wasted ideas.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that I like the concepts in it, and I like this idea of this these guys basically unleashing this beast, thinking they're doing the right thing because they think she's been human trafficked into the place, and it's like, why is there a lock on the outside of the door? This is bizarre, and I like the idea of it more than I like the execution, and I think in the hands of like a better filmmaker, it would have been a much better movie.
Yeah, or a less shitty rushing it out studio.
Yeah,
maybe.
well,
Who
yeah,
knows?
that could be the problem here as well.
Yeah, we can always blame the producers.
Yeah.
If Alien 3 taught me anything, sometimes it is the producer's fault.
No, definitely. But yeah, it's very middling. It's middling to low end, I would say.
Yeah. Like, it's not, I don't think it's incompetently made or anything, like, as far as, like, technical aspects.
No.
It's not doing anything particularly interesting, but it's not like, it's not badly shot.
No.
And the performances are what they are.
Yeah.
Nobody's acting badly as such. The antagonist guy is kind of crappy, but again, in a way that is fun to watch.
Yeah.
As he's allowed to be outrageous and angry and over the top, that's fun.
Yeah.
But like the rest of it, like there's not a lot of other people have dialogue. There's just sort of the leech lady and then the group of guys and the bad guy. Most of the people in the club are just completely silent.
Yeah.
And again, it seems to me that like they did a good job of establishing the club as being interesting, but then you kind of like, I want to see the rest of the film that takes place here.
Yeah.
Rather than let's run about in the woods for half an hour.
I did love though that when they got to the new club from the old, from the like where they start out and it's like crappy and they're like, oh, and like I was kind of going, the whole interesting thing about this club is it's all memories and like you're buying memories as drinks and that all this crap. But in this, when they first get there, it's like, how is this any different to where you were? But they're acting like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah, it's like,
they're like looking around. Ooh.
Yeah,
but they haven't established anything at that point to justify
exactly.
that.
It's like, okay, are the strippers, the no, the stripper lady was like, what way was she dressed? It was like really weird.
She had like a sarong on, and she was she like painted gold? I don't know.
There was something crazy, like there was some like kind of facial makeup or something on her, and they're acting like, wow, this is mental. It's like, really?
Yeah, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's not at all. They're just told, react as if this is amazing. Yeah. Don't worry, we'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
And then they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, then you have the whole thing running through it that they do where they all take mushrooms. And then you're like, I felt like they were seeding something there, but I feel like that came to literally nothing.
Yeah, there was like one scene where the vision kind of blurs a bit. And then you're not sure whether that's... Yeah, because I thought it was going to be... They're not going to know if this is them on mushrooms tripping or if it's actually real.
And then that doesn't come up at all.
No, again, like so much wasted potential again.
Yeah, there's a bit where they come across some cops and try to tell them, and then they're like, are you on anything? And then one of the guys does say yes.
Yeah.
But then that doesn't matter at all.
No.
Because the cops are in cahoots anyway, so it doesn't... Yeah. That was like a pointless thing to see it in there. I thought, oh, right, this is why they're on mushrooms, so the cops don't believe them and blah, 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 blah. But then, no. It was just like... we're going to take you back because we're all in cahoots with the wizard, man, I guess.
Would you say then, I haven't seen the shorter version that's on VHS. Would you say that would be a better...
I think so. Yeah. I think it's more interesting. I think the problem is, I think if you go into VHS knowing in advance...
It's one of those ones that's played as a twist then.
Yeah, the thing that made it interesting was... when the turn happens, you're not expecting it.
Right, okay.
In the short movie, it's some guys in go back to it's like a motel room they go back to, and it seems like they're having fun, but then it takes sort of a, if I use the term, a rapey turn.
Okay.
And it's sort of turning the whole thing on the rapist, as it were. Oh. The guy's getting really pushy. It's like two girls or whatever. And they don't know each other, but they've both gone back to this, and one of them doesn't speak, which is played by the same actress in this. She doesn't really speak or anything, but she seemed really awkward and weird, and they go back to this motel room and blah 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 blah, and things get a bit hot and heavy, and she's like no, and the guy gets pushy, and it's all done again VHS. It's all like handheld cameras.
Yeah.
The whole thing is basically a found footage.
Yeah, that's film. The whole conceit for that anthology is it's all found footage stuff.
So it's a bit more intense. You just get this sort of when the turn happens and she changes, it's actually really effective.
Yeah.
And comes out of friggin' nowhere because you're not expecting it, and then it's just a horrible slaughter, and then it ends.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, that which is why it was so memorable, is why that's really cool. It's got nothing to do with there's no real backstory at all.
Yeah. That sounds
it's just zip, it's clean. You get in, you get out, it's done.
There's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's fun. I think VHS on the whole is actually worth a watch. I quite enjoy VHS.
I was going to watch it, but I'm just kind of burnt out with found footage movies still.
Yeah. After 20 solid years of it.
I actually was about to look it up and went, I couldn't be annoyed with found footage, and a lot of the shaky camera stuff kind of gets on my nerves. But no, I'll maybe give it a go after this.
It is worth it. It is good on the whole. Some bits of VHS are crap, but I think it averages out to be pretty good.
Okay.
Which is the best you can say about most anthology movies, I think.
Yeah.
There tends to be a few duds and then a couple of good things, and then that's it. I can't think of one that's good. Creepshow, maybe. I think I like all of Creepshow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good.
But as far as other anthology movies go, I'm not so sure. But anyway, yes, this film is okay, but it kind of drags. I think. I felt like it was dragging the whole way through when I was watching Siren. Sometimes it was interesting, but
the setup was better than whenever shit hits the fan, so to speak. When things are meant to start happening, it doesn't. It kind of gets stuck in the mud at that point, and
there's way too much of I'm just gonna leave now.
Yeah,
and then we're gonna like the number of times he just sort of walks away and leaves her, and then oh no, she came back again.
Yeah, it's like
he gets sick of that after a while.
yeah,
like,
definitely.
it sort of like kind of feels like it's on a loop. So yeah, I'd say you're probably better watching VHS than you are watching this. Okay, well, she's just standing leaning next to the door with her arms crossed with an expectant look on her face, like she knows we're going to try and leave. I know we need to get out of here. Like, I feel like we're not in any immediate peril as long as we stay here, but there's no bathroom in here. They're all outside. So, before we do that, before I decide to just go in a corner or something, maybe we'll go outside, I don't know, before we try to get past her. John, what did you think? Which of these did you think was the best movie?
Well, again, I think this one's another obvious one. We had two middling movies and
a good one.
And a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just kind of disappointing. I think there's a lot you can do with these kind of the Succubi kind of legend or Succubus legend. You know, we both know of like Lilith as the kind of originator of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
From the Bible and all that.
Indeed, yes. Which they that's what they call her in Siren.
Yes,
they literally refer to her as a Lilith.
Was it a Lilith or was
a Lilith? She's don't listen to the. They call her the Lilith.
I wasn't really paying attention that much then, clearly. I just thought he named her Lilith because he probably thought, and his name, of course, being Mr. Nyx, spelled Nyx, because, there you go. What was it? Nyx was the Mother of Darkness or something like that?
Mother of Darkness, like the goddess of the night or whatever,
Yeah, so there was also that. But, no, like, I think there's a lot that can be done with that legend, especially like I mean, these things always go through so many permutations and like there's so many different legends that it'd be hard to say what one came first. But the one I know of, which is that Lilith was made from the same clay as Adam, and then she was, what was she, too wanton or something like that, or no? She expressed her own opinion or something. You know, because we're talking about old school religion.
Bible.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about old school crappy. You know, horrible people thinking women shouldn't be allowed to speak, and you know, homosexuality doesn't exist, and those kind of people who unfortunately still exist today. But like, there's so much that can be done with that idea in mind that, you know, they don't really. I don't want to say that they should play her as the victim, but there should be some kind of like motive that you can get behind. Like, I could get behind a movie that had a Succubus who was just completely sympathetic. Like, you know, characterize it a bit more. Even with Jennifer's body, you know, they don't do that much, but they do in a sense give her more of a character, and that it's just an extension of it's just Jennifer essentially eating people. You know? Yeah,
because in Siren, it's like it's more of a monster.
It's more of a monster, and even worse than that, it's like she gets hung up on a boy.
Yeah,
you know,
that's kind of pathetic, isn't
it?
Yeah,
that is not the Lilith that, you know.
Yeah,
the outspoken, you know, cursed for eternity because she spoke up or something. Yeah. You know, that's not like. There's so much more that can be done with it. And as far as the Devil's Rock goes, you don't even really get much characterization of the demon as a character in its own right.
It's very two-dimensional. It gets angry at one point when it's big and red. And you get the feeling again it is sort of monsterism in that, but it's definitely more it's more verbose than the one in Siren, where it does have motivations, but it seems to just want to eat men.
Yeah.
That just seems to be what it wants all the time. And that it's just using it's like, oh, I'm going to like camouflage myself as someone just so you get close to me, and then you're doomed.
Yeah. And like I don't think like all monsters need to be like have this great characterization and nuance, but you know, for one coming from a concept of like this, of like coming from this Lilith myth and things like that, like so much you can do with it. And they, like, even as we discussed, like, you know, have one of the characters not affected because he's gay, so it's because it is very much, you know, that old school thought of like, well, it's men and women, so like, you know, all men will be affected, but no, unless you can appear as a man to a gay man, but no.
But that doesn't come up, and you feel like they missed something there, and they should have explored that in one of these films. But they don't.
Definitely one of these films that was teetering on it for a large portion.
Yeah, that's your like fantasy headcanon rewrite of The Devil's Rock, where the Nazi is gay. Yeah.
But I mean, with Jennifer's Body, I mean, it stands above these other two in so many ways, but it at least has that strong female character with weirdly named Needy. And I know her name's her name's Anita, isn't it? But they nickname her Needy. You know, she doesn't start off strong either. She's got like a pretty good growth where like it's her kind of having to come to the realization that Jennifer is horrible and a demon as well.
Like, she's got an arc. She's got a character arc, which they seed at the beginning. Yeah, because they show you like the whole thing's told in retrospect from her like in some kind of prison or juvenile offenders place or something where she's crazy violent, and then it immediately flashes back to her being this sort of dependent, sort of nerdy, standing in her friend's shadow kind of person.
Yeah.
And then you do get to watch that, then you're like, how does this person become that person that we just saw?
Yeah.
And they do that, and they do that pretty well, whereas like there's not a lot of character development throughout either of the other two films, really.
No, I mean, they all remain the same. You know, the groom fella, Jonah, the main character, like, you know, he's kind of painted as this kind of nice guy, doesn't want to cheat on his wife, blah blah, or his fiance, and all this, and then at the end it's like, oh, he saves her and stuff. You know, there's nothing there. There's no character. Lily doesn't have a character in it, unfortunately. His friends don't really have characters beyond what you see at the very start. Yeah,
they are just these stereotypes of, I'm the guy that doesn't want to do the fun things.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy who's weird and nervous but is kind of getting into maybe wanting to do the fun things. And I'm the annoying brother who's just, I want the fun things and I'm wasteful. None of them really change. They do try to have a redemption arc with the brother best man character.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they do it that well. Really.
No, it's very standard. It is again, just another cliche. You know, we've already mentioned, I think, 2 or 3 in this movie in Siren that it's riddled with cliches as well. You know, these wee horror tropes, and it's not done in a way. Jennifer's Body is as well, but they're playing on them. It is very intentional that they're putting these cliches in at times. For the most part, anyway. And yeah, it just is a better written and more enjoyable movie than the other two. You know, it's well paced,
more interesting as well.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah,
it's well paced as well. It doesn't feel like there's, as far as I can remember, anyway, it doesn't feel like there's any wasted scenes in it.
No.
Whereas the other two can't really claim that, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's like it's a horror comedy, and it pulls that off.
Yeah,
I think it's like it is. There are times where it is freaky and scary, and you do feel tense. Like there's a part where she lures a guy out to this house.
Yeah,
and that bit's actually quite tense because he seems all right. You know, I felt like, you know, he is this sort of emo kid kind of guy, but he also seems okay as well. You know, he doesn't seem like a twat or anything. You know, which is eating like the big jock guys. You're kind of like, okay, whatever. But then you're like him. He's like, he's kind of got a character, and he might be a nice guy, and people seem to like him. You know, like her friend seems to think he's a cool guy.
Yeah,
like he's a nice guy, and they establish that. But then I think that becomes like a jealousy thing, maybe.
Yeah,
which is which is again an interesting character thing, that she's jealous that her friend is like friends with someone else who's like, well, I'm gonna eat that guy then.
Yeah.
And like it is kind of freaky, but then it is also funny at the same time. It is genuinely funny. It's not just goofy, like, oh, that looks stupid funny, like maybe one of these other films might be.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like, no, that's funny. The whole stuff with the band is just so good.
Yeah, I really do wish there was just more about them, because I found that whole thing hilarious.
They're such twats.
Yeah.
Every single one of them is such a twat.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so annoying, and you do have like a wee bit at the end there where you kind of get to see, that comes around at the very, very end, which is nice.
Yeah.
It's a bit silly. Some of the stuff at the end's a bit stupid, but I think they've set the whole film up in such a way that you're like, sure, whatever. Yeah. That's grand. Yeah. Why not?
For the most part, it's an enjoyable experience. Yeah, there are there's definite flaws in it as well. I mean, Needy's, as I mentioned earlier, Needy's boyfriend Chip in it. I wish they'd just cut those parts a bit shorter, and even some of them are unnecessary as well. Like, just take some of them out. But it didn't disrupt the flow too much. As we said, the pacing on it was pretty damn good, and between Jennifer and Needy, or Megan Fox and Amanda Seyfried, they carried the movie pretty well, because it kind of rested on their shoulders.
And there's a little bit of Chris Pratt in this. He's only in only in the one scene.
Yeah.
It's just that one scene, right? Yeah.
He dies in the fire, yeah. I thought we were going to see more.
Do you see him die in the fire?
No, you just get told.
You just imagine. Oh, yeah, okay, right. That's cool. Because he has like 2 lines.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. I don't know. It feels like he was just in it. Because, I don't know, they wanted him in it.
Yeah.
Because I think he would have been in Parks and Rec at that point. I think he was on the way up at that stage.
Yeah, 2009, was it?
Yeah,
it probably would be.
But on the whole, then, I think so. I think we're definitely then both picking Jennifer's Body.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, there's no real competition here. Like, there are aspects of the other 2 films that are all right.
Yeah.
But on the whole, they're not great. I do kind of like The Devil's Rock, I think, more than I liked Siren.
Yeah.
If I was going to rank them in some kind of order, I would probably put Siren at the bottom, because I did find it a bit tedious and dull.
Yeah.
Whereas Devil's Rock had an interesting concept, and I did like some of the... I do like the 2 people in a room going at each other kind of film.
Yeah.
There's some really good films that have done that, like really like just minimal cast members and just like people in one location just going at it in a way that like you'll watch it and you're like, oh, this could be a play. This seems like it maybe somebody wanted to do this as a play, or very often that's usually, again, budgetary constraints of we don't want to have a whole bunch of sets, so we're just going to have 2 people in one room for most of it. Maybe another room with another character,
which again would be grand if the writing was better in it. It would work much better. But as it is, it's serviceable.
And it is short. I think it ends. Maybe if it went on longer, it would probably maybe overstay its welcome. Actually, a bit more. But Siren again, like the short, the weirdly the short in VHS is better than this whole film. But it does have its high points. The villain is fun whenever he's not having to be subtle. Whenever his acting is supposed to be subtle, he's not very good. But whenever he's being this over the top antagonist, he is good. So I enjoy that. So Jennifer's Body then, hands down, winner of this. Definitely. Easily, handily takes it. Now, which of these films helps us learn about succubi, how to defeat them, or at least how to get by or away from them?
Well,
in Siren, he is thoroughly unsuccessful at that.
Yeah, I mean,
he doesn't
apparently
have a good
just
solution.
talking to it and going, "Oh, just leave me alone, please." Doesn't work.
It works for a year. Apparently.
Works for a year, yeah, which is fine. The Devil's Rock, he kind of just spoilers, I suppose, kind of just leaves her to it, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Because I think there's, as far as like the technicalities for Succubi in that movie, they establish that she can't cross water.
Yeah. Can't
Which
cross
is-
water and can't harm anyone who has the specific
summoning ritual.
page that
Yeah.
summoned her, I'm assuming.
If you have the, I assume that's the summoning ritual that he has in a pouch around his neck, and then the commando eventually hides in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, she is, I think the way they paint it is that she is as strong as just any other woman
Yeah.
at that point against you, if you're carrying that. So she could still, like, totally murder him. Like, I mean, she just get a knife and stab him, or probably just strangle him. Like, now he is like a commando and, you know, stuff like that, so she might have a bit of trouble bumping him off.
Yeah.
But, you know, he is also really injured at that point. Those guys go through the ringer, actually, in that movie quite a bit. There's a lot of, like, torture and stabbing and bleeding. They're both bleeding constantly, actually, throughout the whole of the Devil's Rock. But having the book that summoned her seems to protect you.
Yeah.
Anyway, but again, he just sort of buggers off. And it's like, all right, good luck, lads, basically, to anyone else who comes here later.
Yeah. Well, he does it as very much a plan of, like, you know, it's going to be Nazis that are going to occupy this, so leave them to it. Jennifer's body, again, should probably preface this with a spoiler because we have to talk about how the Jennifer's dealt with. Stabbing her through the heart when she's weak seems to be how she got rid of her. Yeah.
Yeah, that's whenever she was like hungry or whatever and hadn't eaten enough, and then she put a knife in her heart and killed her.
It specifically had to be when she was weak.
I guess so. Yes. No, I'm looking over. Oh wait, hold on. Sorry, can you hear us over there? Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh no! Oh man, I feel really weak now. Oh,
I mean, I was just about to say that I don't feel comfortable stabbing someone in the heart, especially.
We're not.
You know, the as we mentioned, none of these movies really covered kind of the true nature of the succubus. It could be a very nice creature who just has to eat people.
Yeah, is that... Oh, no, she is going and she's getting security. Oh, no. Okay, right. You know what? I say, right, let's bust this fucking window and get out, man. I hate Port Rush. This place sucks. This place sucks. Church of Big Satan, my hole, lads. It was cheap. All right, you know what? So, don't come and stay in the Church of Big Satan holiday park, because, man, it sucks here. It's bad. It's damp. It's drafty. Like, there's a succubus in all the rooms, I imagine, or was she just staying here? I don't know.
Did we get the succubus suite?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention when I was booking. I was distracted by a film I was watching, funnily enough. Yeah. Well done to me, right? Well, let's just get the hell out of here then.
Everybody jump on the succubus. Woohoo! That sounds like some kind of horrible entrepreneurial disaster.
Sounds like a bad business plan. But you know what? That's like something the Church of Big Satan would probably engage with. Church of BS is right. Yeah. Okay, well, let's go and get just the regular bus, will we? Let's go to the bus stop and let's just go home, will we?
Yeah.
I don't want to cut this holiday short, but that was too much hassle. All right, well, we are on Twitter. We are at 7dayapocalypse. That is at numeral 7dayapocalypse. If you want to email us, you can do so on filmcast@thisweeksapocalypse.com. That's filmcast@thisweeksapocalypse.com. We're also uploading full episodes to YouTube now. And at some point, we'll get around to truncating and making these a bit more digestible and putting them up there as well. We'll see if we can get to that. But, okay, well, here comes the bus. Put out your thumb. And 2, please, mate. Please. Okay, right. Well, looks like we're walking home. I haven't got any change. You know, who carries change? Who carries money these days?
Yeah.
All right. Well, looks like we're walking home from Port Rush.